Could you imagine being just 4 days away from closing on your brand new home and then getting a phone call from your lender being told, I'm sorry, but your financing has been denied? Everything's packed. You're already planning the move. You've told your friends and your family. And in just one phone call, it feels like it's all over. That's exactly what happened to one of my buyers just last week. And what happened over the next 4 days following that is something I think every home buyer should know. Good morning. I'm Nick Casper. Welcome to Coffee with Nick. Every Monday, I want to bring you behind the scenes of a real estate transaction because sometimes the best lessons come from the deals that almost fall apart. This story started on a Thursday morning at around 8 o'clock in the morning. And like I said, we were 4 days away from closing when my phone rang. I looked down and saw that it was the lender calling. Before I even answered the phone, I already knew. I've gotten these phone calls before, and usually 8 a.m. calls 4 days before closing from a lender, they're never good. I picked up, first words out of his mouth were, Nick, we've got a problem. Then he told me they couldn't fund the loan. I'll be honest, it hurt. Not because I was worried about the paperwork, not because I was thinking about my commission, but because my buyer had already emotionally moved into this house. She was planning the move, talking about furniture, excited for what comes next. And now I had to call her and tell her everything has changed. At that point, I had one question. Is there another path forward? This lender was done. As far as they were concerned, there wasn't a solution. Now, without getting into confidential details, an unusual condition surfaced during the lender's final review. The details aren't important. What matters was this. They told me there wasn't a way to fix it. Normally, there's always another path to meet a condition, but this time they believed there wasn't. I'll admit I was frustrated. Actually, I was pretty angry, not because there was a problem, problems happen. I was angry because we were discovering all of this 4 days before closing. Those are the type of problems that keep real estate agents awake at night. The second I hung up, I looked at my calendar. Every appointment I had planned for that day was mentally erased. This time, nothing else matters. I remember thinking, I'm not going home today until we figure this out. This is where people might misunderstand what a realtor actually does. When everything's going perfectly, our job looks pretty easy. But when everything starts falling apart, that's when the real work starts. I closed my office door, picked up my phone, took a deep breath, and then I began solving this one problem at a time. Now, I had to recreate my buyer's financing from scratch and fast. The next question was, could another lender even save the deal? So I call Erica Andrews with Generation Home Loans and I explained to her everything. Her response surprised me. She was just as perplexed at this last minute condition as I was. In fact, she told me she has never heard of this condition before either. Then she said something that gave me hope. Nick, send me the file. I want to look at everything. She didn't overpromise. She didn't tell me everything was going to be okay. She simply said, send me the file. Let me see all of it. It's exactly what I wanted to hear in that moment. I wish changing financing was the hardest part. While Erica started reviewing the file, I still had another problem. I need to call the listing agent. Nobody, and trust me, nobody wants to make that phone call, especially this close to the close date. But I also knew I couldn't call the listing agent with just bad news unless I had a new plan. So I explained to the listing agent what happened. I explained what we're doing, and I asked him for a little bit of patience while we figure this whole thing out. Thankfully, listing agent handled it exactly how a great listing agent should. Professional, calm, solution oriented. Meanwhile, of course, my buyer, understandably upset. She wasn't yelling, she wasn't blaming anybody, but she was wondering, am I about to lose my house? And I told her the truth. I don't know yet, but I promise you, all of us are doing everything we possibly can. Then Came the next issue I needed to resolve. Even if Erica could save the loan, we can't simply switch lenders. Sellers have to authorize this. There are contracts, deadlines, legal protections. If we handled this transition incorrectly, my buyer could have lost all of her earnest money. So now this wasn't just about finding a new loan, it was about protecting my buyer while finding a new path forward. And over the next couple of days, Erica and her team worked tirelessly. She reviewed every document, every income statement, every approval, everything. And by Saturday, we started finally feeling a little hopeful again. Not certain, but definitely hopeful. Then Monday morning, the last piece fell into place. We had our solution. We're going to change lenders. We need a short extension to our close date. We could still get this closed for both the buyer and the sellers, but one last hurdle still remained. Would the sellers agree to changing lenders and agree to extend closing? Thankfully, they did. The listing agent, I think, communicated everything beautifully to the sellers. The sellers understood. Everyone stayed focused on solving the problem instead of blaming each other. And because of that, this transaction survived. Looking back, I don't remember just the paperwork. I don't remember the forms that needed to be completed. I remember the people, a buyer who stayed patient, a lender who refused to quit, a listing agent who stayed professional, seller who was willing to work towards a solution, and a team that kept moving forward one problem at a time. So here's today's coffee takeaway. Don't judge a real estate team by how they perform simply just when everything is going according to plan. Judge them by how they respond when everything falls off the rails, because that's when experience matters most. Thank you for joining me for the very first Coffee with Nick. I'll see you next Monday.